Hi everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to Social Enterprise Summit 2020 International Symposium. Thank you for joining this session named Founding Your Community in the Scale of Chaos. Under the track of Community Empowerment, I'm your facilitator, Tom Chan. Let's talk a little bit about this session. I trust all of you over last years has experienced unprecedented change. Everyone are forced to learn or to adapt in such a new environment. In this environment and or chaos, you name it, what is the meaning of community? How we can form a community? Are there any reflection that we need to remind ourselves so that we can we'll better develop our community afterwards. Today, we have invited 4 speakers. I would like to introduce them one by one. The first one is Amalia Sepro, the founders of Sin Avians from Greece. Welcome. The second one is King Code, the founders of Lycon. And the third one is Dr. Kim Hwa Chung, adjunct associate professor, Characters Institute of Higher Education. He's on site now. Yeah. And the final one is Iris Chan, the manager of ACT, Social Enterprise Business Center, Hong Kong Council of Social Service. Okay, the arrangement is like this, and the speaker will present his or her work around 10 minutes, and after that is a Q&A question. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please leave it in the chat room, and we can follow up it in the Q&A sessions. May I now invite Amalia Seppos to present your experience to all of us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Let me get this right. Everybody can see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this invitation. This is very honorable for me to be part of this Asian conference. I come from Athens, Greece. I'm European. I see among the speakers that there's a minority of Europeans, so I think of myself very lucky and very honored by the invitation. I want to change there. I want to bring the experience. I want to explain to you why I think that you have invited me and who am I, and how my experience can be of value to this conference. So 10 years ago, when Greece was going through very difficult situation, I was part of citizens groups that did a lot of activities in the city. And after that, I created this platform called and pronounced Sin Athina, that collected the activities of these communities and these citizens. I brought it to the municipality. It got awarded internationally because it was at the time very innovative. And the municipality, and I was elected and became vice mayor for 6 years until last year in the municipality of Athens. So I was the vice mayor for civil society and social innovation. And I think that is the reason why you have invited me. But since we're going now through this new unprecedented crisis, I will go back just to share with you how it felt in Greece 10 years ago. And if we can learn something from what happened 10 years ago to be useful today. So I'm taking you back to Athens at a moment when everybody was cursing the parliament. This photo that you're seeing here is people cursing the parliament. Nobody believed in democracy anymore. Institutions had lost their credibility. The GDP had collapsed in ways that we had never seen it after World War II. And people no longer believed in the party, or even in their municipal authorities. So it was a moment of disillusionment, of fear, of anger, and of not knowing what was going to happen next. And this is how it felt in the city. These are photos of people. We saw it in our everyday life. You would walk in the street and there were people, homeless people, poor people, garbage everywhere. It was something that people felt in their bones. And this was why I started trying with friends of mine, just informally. I tried to see what we could do to survive this horrible situation. These are photos from that time. So in my neighborhood and with friends of mine, we started fixing things just around the block. This photo in an abandoned plot with lots of garbage. We cleaned the garbage and we started planting trees and planting flowers and getting to know the neighbors. We started painting and creating small children's parks. We did like parties and musical events in big cities, in big squares of the city. So, and then suddenly I realized that this was something that a lot of people were doing in their own neighborhoods, in their own squares, in their own blocks around the city. This is a graffiti on an old public building. The graffiti at that time says in Greek, "Action replaces tears." And I remember walking by this public building and seeing this message written on the wall of this building. And it was about that if in a moment of crisis, you just, instead of being afraid and, you know, sitting at home and imagining all sorts of terrible things, you just start to be active. You start fixing small things. I think that is the beginning of a new way of doing things. So this public building, we went to the municipality and we said to the municipality, why don't you give this public building to those active groups so that they can use a space to meet, to organize their activities, and to share it to the public good. And I think that it's the beginning of this sense of ownership that this conference has been looking for. How do you create a sense of ownership in the city? You give public space to citizens. So this public space became a space, you see below in the photo, we gave it to community groups that came and repainted it. And then we opened it up so that they could come and meet and organize their activities. Because where is it that you find good social ideas? Where do you find them? You find them in what people do in the street. These invisible activities that were happening in Athens at the time had to be seen, had to become visible. And here is just visible because it is what is now called the collective intelligence. This is the root of collective intelligence, to collect the knowledge and the intelligence of citizens that know the problems in the field and find on their own solutions. And the solutions sometimes might not be incredibly good, but if they feel they are part of the solution, then you start having a new model of governance. So here is just an example of different activities that we collected on the map of Athens. You see the dots on the map was the beginning of a digital platform that we were trying to create. So there were solidarity activities, activities of people guiding tourists around the city in a different way in neighborhoods that people didn't know. activities in schools. They opened the schools after school hours, and they did lessons even for older people, cultural activities, networking activities, food and soup kitchen activities. All these started to be collected in a digital platform. So that was very, very important, because it's the beginning of our era. The digital possibility gives us the space to make those invisible activities visible and public on a digital platform. And this is how it happened. So we created this platform that was called Synathina. The dots on the municipality of Athens are the activities that were happening at the time. And this slide is a moment to say that the digital is very important, but it is important when the offline contact with people is also there. You cannot do it on its own. It is very important to keep the relationship. So we opened the doors of the municipality and we invited these community activists, even those that were informal, individual people doing incredibly important things in their neighborhood. We invited them in the municipality. This physical contact and also the symbolic value of opening the doors to people. So we called it Open Mondays. Every Monday, people could come without an appointment. They could come to my office and they would talk about what they were doing in their neighborhood. So that was another way to start building trust. What is this? So in fact, this was the way that we designed this new model of governance to explain it to other cities around Europe in the last years. So in the center, you have the Athens municipality, which by itself could not do much during the crisis. It had lost, because of the austerity measures, it had lost a huge amount of its budget. It was in debt. It had no capacity to go itself in the neighborhoods unless it would bring in this social capital that the city had. So in the center, you have the Athens municipality, which is surrounded by an ecosystem of activists. It is called now, in the new vocabulary, the social innovation ecosystem that surrounds it with very systematic, transparent, methodical collaborations. So the municipality becomes, and authorities become, the compass, the moderator, those that can bring together the private sphere, the public sphere, and community activists around the same table and design together solutions for the city. I hope this experience and this story can be inspiring for what is happening today in a new way in our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amalia. You inspired me that people are solutions, not problems, and small visible actions are important. And may I now invite Kinko to share about his ideas of LikeCons. Yeah, as all of us know, online community is a new form of community now. Kinko, please. And if you have any questions to Amalia, please feel free to write it in the chat box. Thank you.
Can I confirm the screen is working?
Yes, it's working.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, good afternoon. This is Kinko, the co-founder of Litecoin, and I'm happy to share with you how do we build consensus in a decentralized community with liquid democracy. And I'm going to explain a little bit what liquid democracy is. But before that, let me spend a minute to explain, to introduce what Litecoin is. So Litecoin is a decentralized publishing infrastructure. I don't have time to go into the details, what exactly it is, but you can basically assume it is a technical environment for everyone to publish their contents, be it an article or an image, to the blockchain and have it stayed forever, immutably. So instead of in the traditional world, in the world that we live in, when we have to publish a book, we have to apply from a certain centralized body for an ISBN for your book. So in the ecosystem of Litecoin, everyone can do that without getting a permission, and the content will stay forever without being censored. So that is Litecoin, but that is not what I'm going to share today. So today I'm going to share how Litecoin get consensus among our users. So we call the community of Litecoin the Republic of Litecoin, or in short, Litecoin. So Litecoin is like the European Union of civic media. So as we all know, in the European Union, each country maintains their own sovereignty. So they have they are a sovereign country, but at the same time, for really important and fundamental issues, they get together and they have a mechanism to get consensus. Issues like currency, so that we have euro, and issues like GDPR, the General Data Protection Act, and issues like, say, how to do trade with other countries like the States and China. So Litecoin is that similar in that sense that it is also a union, but a union among civic media. So the civic media maintain their own sovereignty, meaning they have their own brand, they have their own website, they have their own, and most importantly, they have their own editorial, and Litecoin will never interfere with that. Yet at the same time, we get together to find consensus on very fundamental and important issues in publishing, such as how do we deal with disinformation, how do we deal with issues like content form, how to reward content creators. So as of today, there are around 1,400 civic media in the ecosystem with 88,000 likers, out of which a dozen thousands of them are content creators having created 300 some thousand contents and being rewarded 38 million Litecoin. If we convert that, someone convert that Litecoin into US dollar, that would be around 300,000 US dollar as of today. So at the core of the consensus mechanism, there are validators. I don't have time to explain in details, but you can roughly assume validators are congressmen. And we have been around for a year. And in our genesis, which is November 15 last year, there are 7 founding validators in our genesis, names of which some of the names are familiar, maybe familiar with you, such as the Stand News, such as the Cultural and Media Education Foundation, which is the back of Hong Kong in media matters, and some from Taiwan, where I am, which is like Taiwan Fact Check Center, because we're doing publishing, and Beikeda, Taipei Technology University, bodies like that. And one thing is very interesting, just now the presentation, Open Monday. So we are also, being open is also one of our core values. So because we, at the very core, we are a blockchain. The content on the blockchain is open. Our source code is open. All the data on the blockchain is open, and as a whole, it forms sort of like an open government. transparency is at the heart of the ecosystem. So just go onto our website and you can know what's happening in the community, in the republic, so to speak, like who is online, which congressman is lazy and not attending the meetings, or what they voted on the certain bills, issues like that. And the main theme, which is liquid democracy. So to understand what liquid democracy is, it's best to compare and contrast it with representative democracy, which we are all very familiar with, although we don't really have it. So compare with, so liquid democracy is very similar to representative democracy with two major enhancements. Number one, each stakeholder are given certain amount of tokens, let's say 100 like voting token that they have in hand, and they can dedicate the token to their representative. But they don't have to pick only one representative. If they like, they can pick 2 of them, or even 3, or even 100 of them. But of course, if you, as you dedicate your token, you have a fixed amount of token. So if you dedicate to more people, each of their voting power will be diluted. The voting power is in proportion to the amount of voting token they have been dedicated. So that's number one. Number two, there is no terms of service, which means it's not like every 4 years there will be an election and people will choose their representative. Instead, people can change their mind, switch to another representative anytime. So this makes the situation very interesting. It's not like when you get elected, you can go lazy, you can betray your stakeholders, because you can be, if you do, people will dedicate their voting token to another representative and you will be disqualified at any time, like anytime, but technically it's not anytime, but every 5 seconds. So technically it's a blocks time in our blockchain. So I don't think I have time to go into the detail of this graph, which detailed how our proposal get, what's the process of proposal being being proposed to having enough deposit period, to having enough deposit so as to enter voting period, and then to pass or not. But this is basic, roughly looks like this. So rather, I will share 2 recent proposals that the community has passed it. So we have been around, Litecoin was started in 3 years ago, but Republic of Litecoin was started its Genesis block 1 year ago. So in the past year, we have passed it 5 proposals. So this is the very recent proposal that was passed it earlier this month. This is to increase the inflation rate of Litecoin to 2%. So it is very interesting for some people because most of us can hardly expect issues like inflation rate can be decided by the general public and efficiently. So even in the most democratic country in this present world, we can only expect the Federal Reserve to make such a decision for us. While in the Republic of Litecoin, anyone can raise a proposal to increase or decrease the inflation rate or change any of the constitution. As long as they gain enough support, it will get passed it and executed. So proposal 4 is even more interesting. Proposal 4 is passed quite recently in October. It is to enable direct democracy for all the stakeholders. So before Proposal 4 was passed, every proposal has to be voted by validators, which are the congressmen elected by stakeholders. So Proposal 4 says if the individual stakeholders are really concerned about a certain bill and they know the details, they can choose to vote themselves. So to bypass their representative and vote for themselves. So it's interesting to note that not everyone actually, while many people thought it must be very welcomed, the proposal must be very welcomed and be agreed by everyone, is not really the case. So some validators actually voted no on this. So around 75% voted yes. So we are managed to have the bill passed it, but not everyone agreed with it. So time is very limited. So I have to go very quickly to finish it. So how to participate? You can like on our content. You can put your content on our blockchain. You can delegate your Litecoin to a representative that you trust to participate in the liquid democracy. If you have the technical know-how, we encourage you to become a validator and to represent the stakeholders. And if you're a developer, we encourage you to develop, to join our ecosystem by building the code. So thanks everyone. So this is the download link of Liteland. You are encouraged to join. It's free, and my contacts are listed here. Thank you.
Thanks, Kane. Thank you for sharing to us that blockchain is enabling a new form of decision-making process, which is really interesting. And maybe we can also shift to another focus is polling. When we don't have the votes or we can't vote every time, polling would be important. May I invite Dr. Zhong to share about his work and experience to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and good afternoon to all you all. It is my pleasure to come here to share with you some of my ideas and my experience in working. I have been working in a university for 30 years, and now I retire, and I'm now working part-time to help a social enterprise in Hong Kong, which is focusing on conducting opinion polls. I have been working there for more than half years, and I really feel that it is a very important element for a liberal society to be serious about public opinion. I have been in Avon 10 years ago. I spent 3 weeks there, and at that time, I know that how chaotic the city had been, and I would say that up to this point, I never imagined that Hong Kong can be even more chaotic. Yeah, that's serious. So the situation is becoming worse. So I think we all have to be serious about how the city is running, how we can improve the situation, and most importantly, we have to know what other people are perceiving the situation. And it is also important for the government to know how people and how citizens in Hong Kong are willing and perceiving or even evaluating the government. How well the government is doing is very important. So it is totally irresponsible for a government to say that public opinion for me or for the government is just like floating clouds. I don't care. And that is totally irresponsible. To react to the film of this section, finding our community in a state of chaos. The first question I would like to alert you is Hong Kong in a chaotic situation? If you pay attention to the news, if you are looking into what had happened in Hong Kong in the last 1 or 2 years, I would say that you will certainly come to a conclusion that yes, Hong Kong is really in a very serious, chaotic situation. We know that in the last year, after this moment, the government or the police had caught more than 10,000 people. 1/4 of them are just secondary age school students. Is that serious or chaotic enough? We also know that several months ago, the central government in Beijing had enacted a piece of law, national security law, making it impossible or very, very risky for people to criticize the government. Just criticizing is becoming something not accepted by the authority. And people are likely to be accused and be detained just for saying something that the government does not want to hurt. So the situation is really serious. And I think the point is, we are in a state that people are losing trust on each other. I think trust is the building stone of our community. But at this moment, I have to say that the authority in Hong Kong, the government, the central government in Beijing, the pro-government side are really losing the credibility and the trust from the community. Just look into the opinion poll we are conducting ongoingly. You will find this a very serious aggression. And on the other hand, I also know that people in Hong Kong are really unhappy about the situation, because when we look into the data we collected, people are being oppressed and distrusted by the government. People in Hong Kong are asking for freedom in speech. People in Hong Kong have been promised to have a more democratic system. But nowadays, the government said that it is still not the time for us to develop further. Or even worse, in the last 1 or 2 years, the original freedom and democracy we are enjoying are being rolled back by the authority. And this is really, really serious. And many people, especially young people, they feel that they are not being heard. Their voices, their hope, their identification with the society are not being heard by the authority. Sometimes they have been described as they are not even the stakeholder of the society. And this not stakeholder, young people is not the stakeholder of the society, was voiced out by our leader, the CE of Hong Kong. So I think that would be serious enough when most of the young people in Hong Kong just do not think that their voices are being heard, their stake in the society are no longer taken seriously by other people. It will be difficult for the government to build up trust and to put forward policy and anything that the government wants to do in the society. And on the other hand, if we look into the data we collected in the last 1 year, I would say that the trustworthiness of the government, of officials, of the CE, the chief executive, are all in a state of bankruptcy. I can cite some very simple and direct reference to that. When we talk about the rating of our chief executive, the last round of data we announced last week say that she only got 30.2 in the overall rating out of 100. And most astonishing is that more than 45% of Hong Kong people gave her 0 marks. And that is serious enough, right? So this is what the situation is. People are lacking trust on the society. People are rating the government poorly. And on the other hand, the government is not trusting people. the government is trying to rule people out from the policy making arena and try to ignore their feeling and their perception. And this is the situation we are now facing. My idea is that in this situation, the Public Opinion Research Institute, which I'm now working for part-timely, is playing a very essential role in the society. We are a social enterprise. The institute is supported by public donation. And we are trying to inform the government and inform the publics what people are perceiving the government. And we also doing research and surveys on various social issues when the government had policy paper come out, or when the policy address of the CE is being delivered. We try to test out how people react to that kind of proposal and some policy agenda of the society. And we also find that when the government put forth something with some grand objective, it is mostly rejected or doubted by the publics. That make it impossible or very difficult for the government to work on some urgent issues we Hong Kong people are now all facing. And our idea is we as a social enterprise, we want to, through public opinion polling, to inform the authority on how people are perceiving things in the society. And for political leaders and players, when people rate this player, I also find that people are quite happy about the situation, because they feel that at least they have some leeway or some safety valve for them to voice out what they feel about the society. So I have to rush. And lastly, I would say that for us, the Hong Kong Public Opinion Research Institute as a social enterprise is now trying to do something to contribute to society. We know that we are not welcomed by the authority, but we are trying to do that, trying to insist on doing something we feel right and needed for the society. We are a social enterprise in nature. We are not profit making. We are providing employment opportunity for more than 250 people in Hong Kong. Some of them are disadvantaged group people. We are offering something which is now not being provided by other bodies in Hong Kong. Once we have some public opinion center in the Hong Kong University, in the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, but now all this center have been closed just because the government is not favoring that kind of undertaking in the institution, which they think the institution are heavily funded by the government and you should not do something not welcomed by the government. So we come out and develop this social enterprise. We hope that we are still doing the right job for the society. And most importantly, the operation of our institute are fully funded by public donation. We feel that we are doing something good, we are doing something important, and we as a social enterprise, we are also doing something which is not provided by the market. We are not profit seeking. So we believe that as long as people in Hong Kong still need our institute, we are going to do that with support from the public. And we seriously hope that Hong Kong government and the central government in Beijing can have a mindset change when they reveal our report. They have to understand that with 30 years of opinion polling experience accumulated through the Hong Kong U and Hong Kong Poly U, we are quite confident that the trend we take out from our undertaking is really a major reference for the government to improve the governance of the society and to make the government more able to put forward anything that is essential. That is what I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Zhou. May I last but not least, may I now invite Iris Tran to present what she has done in the community. I know that she really done many good projects collaborating with the government officials. Iris, please.
Thank you. Yes. Am I being heard? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Shall I introduce a bit myself? I'm Iris, and I'm working for the ACT Social Awareness Network under the Hong Kong Council of Social Service. And thank you for inviting me to share my work over this controversial period. And yeah, and then thank you for Dr. Jones just share his word, how to build the trust over the communities under his professional. And then for me, I think, yes, we both agree over the period of time, we are Hong Kong and in the status of chaos. We are in the our news rank in the top news, world news, right? The scenes I have posed is very familiar in every corner of the world, right? Yeah. So I think a lot of people ask this question over the period of times. How to hold our place and where to start. I'm going to share my experience and my word. Maybe it can be some hints. Before the chaos, I mean the early of 2019, we observed the youth situation in Hong Kong can be seen by the newspaper from 2017, 2018, and 2019. It seems that the situations of the youth is not in a good career perspective, you see. The job skill seems mismatched. The development seems quite not in a bright side. And then, however, we think that the characteristics of the youth is like that. They are very committed to serve the society. They are technology lover. And they have the mindset to contribute, but doesn't have a network or knowledge. This is what we respect the youth, the Hong Kong youth. And then what we have done is use kind of community solution. It is a kind of multi-stakeholder approach. We have doubt about this. As I mentioned earlier, the project idea developed early in 2019. And you know, the chaos period also developed gradually and dramatically in the mid of 2019. But anyway, we think that this is worth to do this. And the core of the multi-stakeholder approach is we make use of the community assets base, community problems or issue as a core. And then we engage diverse stakeholders. Of course, we will include the district government and the school and the expert and community organization. We will regard them as kind of partnerships for impact. And then through the partnerships, we will mediate the diverse opinions and then build kinds of consensus throughout the cooperation. So what we have done is that the project, we call it as CSY, Community-Based Social Innovations for Youth. And then we use design thinking, where we regard as a kind of empathy building. We start by empathy building, okay? You can perspective it in different kinds of terminology. Mutual understanding, you learn something about me, I learn something about you, all kinds, but you can conclude it as a kind of empathy building. And then use the design thinking, this is the starting point. Okay, so empathy building, and then ideate, test, and then produce the prototype and then test. What is it? Theoretically, you don't understand, and then I can explain it through a project. This is a project. We make the project as a competition, focus on the secondary student in Hong Kong, all over the territory. You can see that there is 3. The first one is start in 2019. We have the focus district. The district problem in Central and Western District is the first one. And then we collaborate with, you can see a lot of NGO, 9 or 8 NGO in Central and Western District. And all secondary students in Hong Kong can participate to produce their social innovative idea to solve the key issue in the community. And the second one is the 2 O's. The district is Kowloon City in Kowloon. The same, we have focused on 3 community problems like roadway traffic, hygiene issue, and this can draw the common concern. Okay, the latest one will begin North District. Okay, you can see what I mentioned is that through the projects, I have mentioned about empathy. We bring a lot of, we bring those participated secondary students into the community. And then we collaborate with the NGO. A lot of very domestic NGO will lead the tour and let the student to learn what happened in the community, to learn the hardships, the poor hygienes, or even the road traffic congestion in the community, to let them to think about what they can produce to solve those annoying daily problem. You can see that we have partnered with the district government, and you can see 2 pictures. The guide who are lead the tour are the district officer of Central and Western District, and the gentleman is the district officer of Kowloon City District. Okay. And then here is the community pitching. We engage over hundreds of residents who live in the community and then call them to give the comment over the solution that provided or drafted by the secondary student. The process is to mediate different diverse interests and then to build kinds of consensus through the process. You can say that kinds of trust or mistrust can be diluted, and kinds of trust can be built through this discussion or the pitching process. And then there is a community trial. We engage the resident again to comment the prototype that produced by the student. And finally, this one, you can see why we have to engage the government and the expertise and the resident group, NGOs, and the student all together in the ceremony. We have to show kinds of understanding between them and then let them to build kinds of consensus of trust. Finally, the most important, we engage the district government because we want to have some implementation work in the district. This work is not the champion, but at least the finalist prototypes produced by a very local, not the brand school, but the idea is very good. It is about the VR technology to collect the opinion from the resident through the checkbox. They use the VR technology and the checkbox to promote kinds of mutual understanding and then collect the opinion of the resident towards the mini construction work in the district. So you can see that this proposal is being partly implemented in Central and Western District. So it enhanced the confidence of the student to participate in the community work and enhance their awareness on their ability and their contribution to the society. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris, and thank you all the speakers for your sharing. And it's the Q&A session, and please feel free to write in the chat box if you have any questions to our speakers. May I have the first question to all of the speakers first? As you know, when the future is highly unpredictable, there's always a dispute in the community about how what is the best way to go forward or what is the best solution. And is this the case in your community, and how you can handle dispute in your community or resolve it? Anyone want to start first?
Can you, what is the question?
It's about how to solve your dispute in your community.
Yeah, I agree that communication is the essential to promote kinds of trust and then eliminate stigma or promote a shared understanding. If in particular in this kind of chaos period.
How about Amalia? Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes,
Mr. Chuang.
I personally feel that at this stage of Hong Kong, I'm really quite worried because I was born in Hong Kong. I was raised and grew up in Hong Kong. I was educated in Hong Kong, and for the last 60 years, I had never seen Hong Kong in that chaotic situation, and I'm really worried because even in the colonial period, I myself as a student, and when I was a college student, I joined in to support the idea of reunification with China. We believe that something positive is going to change to come out when the economy is improving, when the political situation is becoming more liberal. And I agree with this idea that we had to adopt the one country, two system approach to make Hong Kong contribute to the long-term development of the country, and to make sure that the way of life in Hong Kong people can be preserved. But up to this day, if we talk about how to resolve this bill, I think at this time I find no clear answer in my mind, because I'm not sure how far the government is going to do. Up to this point, I still feel that the government, just what the government was doing yesterday, is damaging the trust, but not rebuild the trust or to further develop the trust in the society. And without that trust, nothing can come out. People are still very angry about the situation. People will reject all idea proposed by the government. And the government is still doing something to damage the trust. If the government, as a leader of society, just choose not to stick to the rules, then how can you expect people to stick to the rules and obey the law? So this is the most important question at
as
this
the
point
time is running out, I would like to also invite Amalius, as you were working in the government, how you solve dispute between people or government or inside the government. Yeah. Can you share your experience of us?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the lovely presentations. I really enjoyed this panel. There was one thing as you were talking that I remembered, that the visibility, public opinion, you say public opinion matters to everybody, no matter what is happening, okay? So when we collected the activities, and Now, be careful. We collected positive activities. There was a lot of anger in the streets, a lot of strife. We did not collect that. We collected all the initiatives that brought solutions, even very small scale, you know. So this collection of a positive vocabulary, a positive language of collaboration, okay? It was not about collecting, you know, the ideologies and the angers and what people had in their mind. It was about collecting what people did, the activity, you know, the factual, the evidence that when people, you know, are positive, there is a difference in your neighborhood. There's something, you know, good that is happening. And that is what I meant earlier by collective intelligence. It was collecting the positive input. That is scary to a government that is not able to listen to it when it realizes that this is actually happening. And that was important because it was important, A, for the authorities to see that this was a voice that they had neglected, but it was also important for the people themselves to see themselves on a public, you know, platform where they became visible. So it worked in both directions. Just one thing. Thanks.
Thank you, Amalia. And how about Ken? Are there any dispute in your community and how you solve it? As you said, although there are, yeah, please.
I would say there are always dispute in every community. It's actually normal and it can actually be healthy. I would just share a little bit on, as I understand your question, is probably what's the way out, or what are we going to do in such a situation? I'll understand it this way. So I would stress that other than the two approaches that we want to get democracy and consensus, the first approach would be to negotiate with the government to get democracy, say being in the electrical. And the second way, which we are also quite familiar with, is to do protests and other forms of fighting for democracy. And as I just presented, I would like to highlight that there's actually a third way, which is to create our own democracy. We may not be able to change the government. Actually, we are not at this point, and but I think it's important not to give up and not to think it's useless to do anything. We can create our own democracy in the area that we can control. For me, it's our own digital world where it's not controlled by the government. It's never think that this is meaningless, because say take content and online platforms as an example. We take for granted that like Facebook feed looks like that. What Facebook feeds me, I have to accept that. If we can change that kind of mindset, what if we have say on the mechanism of content distribution? What if I can raise a proposal to change the policy of Facebook? So we embed like thoughts like this in people's mind, and if this seeds grows and people understand what democracy is and how it works, it in the long run it may help in our like physical world, physical society as well. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. And I think time is running out, and may I have all of our speakers to share maybe in one sentence an advice to all of our to us that how we what is the hope in the future to solve in this chaotic state? Maybe start with who want to start first? Give your advice to our audience in one sentence.
I would say that I hope that all people can have a kind of empathetic understanding on each other's positions. That is the starting point. And first of all, I think those who are in power had to take the initiative.
Yeah, empathy. Yeah, and Iris?
I think stay positive is very important. You know, solution always more than problem. So be more positive, you will proactive, and then be more productive to produce solution and think of different collaboration opportunity to change something.
How about Keen?
I think stay alive, stay healthy, do something. If you're too tired, take a break, but just stay healthy.
Yeah, it's really important. Yeah, and Amalia?
I would like to say that remember that chaos is a moment when resistance has fallen. So it is really the opportunity to try out different models. Chaos is good because the resistance is weaker. So keep that in mind.
Yes, keep trying. Yeah, thank you. And here's come to the end of this session. Thanks again to all the speakers as they have shared much of their experience in this field. Please take a few minutes to help us fill in the survey, which is already placed in the chat room, or scan the QR code here. Your feedback is extremely useful for us to evaluate the summit and make it even better in the coming years. Last but not least, please return to the agenda page to join another session. See you there. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.